Happy Sunday morning, or whatever day or time of day you might be watching this video. Happy whatever time you're watching this video. I am just happy that you are here, and even though we still can't be together physically, like I said in past videos, this is still just a sweet time, because even if it's just me leading the videos and y'all following along at home, it's still this space in the week where we get to be together and keep working on creating our community at St. Francis. So I am just so glad that you are here and you are joining me, and we get to do another Beatitudes lesson together. Whether or not you guys can believe it, today we are actually going to be talking about the last Beatitude that Jesus gave on the Sermon on the Mount. So while we're starting to think ahead about that a little bit, I invite you to get out some of your morning wiggles, maybe get some stretches. Maybe let's reach far above our heads, and then let's reach down and touch our toes. Here I am, don't worry. And then, we can stretch our arms and just move out, especially if you're watching this in the morning. We have got to get those morning wiggles out, you guys. So let's work on that. And while we are working on that, I am going to give you this week's welcome question/discussion. So today we are actually going to be talking a little bit about what it looks like to follow Jesus when it's the difficult choice to make, or what to do when following Jesus feels hard or feels difficult, because sometimes it does. But the best part of that, the best part of knowing that sometimes following Jesus can feel difficult, the best part of that is knowing that you are not alone in that. So we are all a part. Basically, think of it as we are all a part of the same team, a part of like the God and Jesus team. And that is a team of love and a team of justice. So I am wondering if you guys can think of any teams in real life or in fantasy, so like in movies or TV shows that you watch or a book you read maybe. I'm wondering if you guys can think of teams that work together for love and justice. So who are a few we can think about? Well, I know if you like to watch movies and you ever watch superhero movies, right? Like the Avengers, for example, that's a team that works pretty hard for love and justice. They definitely work towards justice and saving people's lives, right? In the real world, there are all kinds of people we can think about that work on a team to bring love and justice. We can think about a lot of our doctors right now are working so hard to take care of people and to love people and bring justice in the medical field. And so we can be thinking about our real life heroes right now, like doctors and EMT workers and all of the essential workers that have been working this whole time that this nasty germ has been around. They are a part of the team of love and justice, and they are working towards love and justice by loving us in the middle of this nasty germ pandemic. So you guys can think about different teams that you see working together towards love and justice, whether that is in real life or something you've seen on TV or read in a book or story you've heard or anything like that. I just want you guys to start thinking of people you've seen or teams that you know of that work towards love and justice. And while you are starting to get your mind thinking in that direction, it is time for us to do our weekly mountain climb, because like I said, today we are hearing the last Beatitude, which is the last part of the Sermon on the Mount. And how are we supposed to hear the sermon on top of the mountain if we don't climb the mountain to get there? Am I right? So this is when I need you guys to use your very best imaginations. And I want you to climb this mountain with me, because we are going to climb this mountain and hear Jesus give the last part of the Sermon on the Mount. So remember that Jesus came to earth to love and care for people that didn't feel like they were being very loved or cared for. So this sermon was for them, and the sermon was for us. So for us to hear the last part of it, we got to climb that mountain like we've been doing every Sunday for almost 12 weeks. So you guys get it by now. So the 4 main ways we've talked about climbing a mountain. Number 1 is you just go for a casual hike, a leisurely stroll. So you're just gonna march in place Okay, the second way you can climb a mountain, remember, is the way that I know, excuse me, the least about, but we can still pretend to do it. That's what imaginations are all about, right? So it's using a rope to climb. So like I've said, I imagine you hook some rope to a rock somewhere, and then you're pulling yourself up. You are pulling yourself up the mountain so you can climb a mountain this way using your arms. The third way that you can climb a mountain is we think about our friends that hike mountains in their wheelchairs. So I want you to pretend to roll that wheelchair and work hard to get up that mountain. Now the fourth way for our more mountain climb or extremists, the fourth way that you can pretend to climb a mountain is to go rock climbing. And that is when you get your hands and your legs involved. And so it's this leg in this hand, this leg in this hand. And you are climbing that mountain. You are climbing those rocks. So today, as always, I just want you to pick your favorite way to climb the mountain. It can be one of those 4 ways. If you've thought of a different, more fun way that you enjoy climbing a mountain, you can do that. I don't care. All I care about is that we get up that mountain together. So I am going to count to 20, pick your favorite way to imagine hiking the mountain, and we are going to hike the mountain together. So today, I think I might take a big step today. I might be a rock climbing enthusiast, and I might go rock climbing. So I'm going to count to 20. I personally am going to choose rock climbing, and we are going to get up this mountain together. So on your mark, get set, get ready. Let's climb. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Whew. You guys, that took a little bit more effort than the other ways that we have climbed a mountain. So, I am tired. You guys might be tired, but all that matters is that we are at the top of this mountain together now. So I want you guys to use your imaginations. I want you to look around at all the things you can probably see from the top of a mountain. You can probably see the sea or an ocean over there, some body of water. You could probably see little dots, and then you look closer and you're like, oh, those are animals. Those are some cows down there maybe. I don't know, like a pasture. You can see all kinds of things from the top of a mountain, right? So while we are thinking about all the things we can see from the top of this mountain, I want you guys to start calming your bodies. I invite you to take a seat with me, and I want you guys to go from using your very best imaginations to putting on your very best listening ears, because we are going to do our lesson next. So calm your bodies, and let's get ready to move on to the next part of the Sermon on the Mount. Okay, everybody, so now we are sitting down, we are calming our bodies, we are putting on our very best listening ears, because we are getting ready to hear the very last beatitude, the last part of the Sermon on the Mount. And just as a side note, I know that in the past and most weeks, I love recording these videos outside. I just love to be outside with y'all, but you know, some days the weather just doesn't want to cooperate, and that's why we are filming in my room today. But either way, I'm just excited to be here with you guys. So remember, we are using our imaginations to pretend that we are sitting on the top of the mountain. We are looking up at Jesus, and we are ready to hear the last beatitude that he has to give us. So remember, it is no coincidence that Jesus chose the top of a mountain to give his sermon, the Sermon on the Mount, because we know that back in Jesus' time, mountains were considered these really sacred and holy places and spaces for people. Maybe because if you reach your arms up into the sky, you feel like you're a little closer to the sky. Maybe you're closer to God, closer to heaven. Either way, mountains were just really sacred, special, holy places for people back then. So it's no coincidence that Jesus chose a mountain to give his sermon. And then the other thing that I want you guys to remember is that Jesus came to give the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus gave us the Beatitudes because Jesus wanted to tell us about God's kingdom. So remember that you can think of a kingdom as the way the world works or the way the world is set up. So in God's kingdom, heaven, there's that word I bring up every week, that word I love so much. In God's kingdom, there is abundance. So abundance means that there is more than enough money, honor, food, love, every resource that a child of God would need to thrive. There is plenty of it for all of us waiting in heaven, which is just a really cool promise. So I love to remind you guys of that promise every week. But so remember, we are using our imaginations, we're pretending we are on the mountain, and Jesus is about to tell us our very last beatitude. So this beatitude is not only our last one, but it's probably one of our longer ones. So I really want you to put on your listening ears and listen closely to this one, okay? So we find the last beatitude in Matthew 5:11 through 12. And it says, Jesus says, "Blessed are you when people revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you." So at first, does this beatitude sound a little kind of like, I'm not so sure about that? Yeah, it maybe does sound a little scary. It's not fun to hear that we might get persecuted or, harmed for believing in Jesus. So, but if you think about this verse in a different way, Jesus really ended his beatitude with a strong word of encouragement for us. So in these final words of Jesus's blessings, Jesus again tells his followers that they would be blessed in facing persecution. So he knew this might be one of the toughest, hardest things, keeping people from living out God's abundant love. Some people were afraid to openly live out God's abundant love because they were afraid of what other people might think, or they were afraid of getting persecuted. And Jesus knew this. And so that's why Jesus wanted to kind of calm people's fears about that. Jesus told his listeners also, it wasn't a matter of if they were persecuted. Remember, he doesn't say if you're persecuted, he says when you are persecuted. And so he knew that when his followers tried to follow and live out his teachings, they would maybe lose friends. They would maybe be disliked. They would maybe hear people saying bad things about them, or they could experience other kinds of harm. So we know that to follow Jesus is to face what Jesus faced. And guys, Jesus experienced all of the things I just mentioned, plus some. But the good news is that we are not alone in this. So that is the good news. That is the really hopeful promise in this beatitude, is that we are not alone in these struggles and in these thoughts. So in this beatitude, Jesus points us to the prophets, which is your fun vocab word for this week. So a prophet, you can consider anybody a prophet who is a dedicated leader who sided with the voiceless and the powerless. So prophets were these really dedicated, amazing leaders. And they faced a lot of persecution. I'm wondering if you can think of any prophets from the Bible with me. There was Elijah, there's Jeremiah, there's Daniel. We can even remember there's a prophet named Deborah in the Bible, and a lot of people didn't want to listen to Prophet Deborah because she was a woman, and they were like, you don't know what you're talking about. So, we can even think about people like Deborah who were persecuted, not just for following Jesus, but for following Jesus and trying to lead as a woman. And I'm wondering if you can think about any maybe more modern day prophets in your parents' lifetime or in our lifetime. We can think of Dorothy Day. We can think of Martin Luther King Jr. We can think of all kinds of modern day prophets, these incredible leaders that were voices for the voiceless and the powerless. So we are joining with people from the ancient past, the recent past, and people all over the world today So we are joining with children, we are joining with teenagers, adults, older adults. We join with people. We are on this team with people who want to create a world where people can live freely and live without fear. But the thing is, for us to get there, guys, we have to do it together. We also need to remember to keep humble hearts and humble attitudes, because there may be times when we misunderstand and we persecute others. Yes, sometimes we are the ones on the wrong side of a decision. Can you believe it that sometimes we make the wrong choices? We are always learning and growing. Guys, it doesn't matter if you're a little kid or whatever age you are right now. It doesn't matter if you're a little kid. It doesn't matter if you're a young adult like me. It doesn't matter if you are an older adult. No matter what age or season of life you are in, we are constantly learning and growing. Every individual human has different experiences and has different perspectives. So when we don't understand why someone is doing something or why someone believes something, we need to ask questions rather than going ahead and making judgments. We need to explore and ask questions and look into those things instead of just deciding that those things are bad. So Jesus told us to rejoice when we are persecuted. So does that make a ton of sense to you guys right off the bat? Do you normally rejoice when people misunderstand you or when somebody says something mean to you? I know when someone says something mean to me, I don't turn around and go, "Thank you, God, for those mean words. I loved that." No, my first thought is like, why in the world are you talking to me that way? I don't think to rejoice when someone is mean to me. So that's just an example of how this is not the easiest work. The path of following Jesus is not always going to be an easy path, but Jesus reminded us that when we make brave choices, even if they might be unpopular choices, if we make brave choices, we are creating a world that looks more like God's home. Guys, if we make brave choices, if we stick up for love and justice, we are creating a world that we live in that could look more like heaven. And how beautiful and incredible is that? And we also have a whole family of faith of people who are with us, people who followed God thousands of years ago, and people today that are following God. They are with us and they are following us in our faith, and we are all following in our faith together. And my friends, that is something worth celebrating. That is something to rejoice over, the fact that we are not alone, and everybody who is following God and working together towards creating heaven on earth, working together towards creating shalom and true peace. We're all on this team together. So in the moments where it feels lonely, or we might get attacked, or maybe somebody says something mean about us because we choose to follow Jesus, we get to remember, I am not the only person going through this struggle. Other people are having to struggle with these things too. And that creates community, and that is a beautiful thing that is worth celebrating. So that was our last Beatitude, you guys. I can't believe it. This series is almost over. I've loved this series so much. So we are going to close off today's lesson with your weekly blessing. So remember, a blessing is like a gift. So you can put your hands out like this, like you are expecting your gift. And I will give you today's blessing. Today's blessing is, may you be blessed with joy and a whole team of supporters as you partner together to make this world a better place. I want you to take that blessing. I want you to fold it up in your hands. I want you to put it over your heart, because it belongs in your heart. Because why? Oh, I'm glad you asked. Because it is truth, and your heart always needs room for truth in it. So guys, as always, there are some activity and coloring pages that are getting emailed out to your parents this morning. So if you want to do the coloring page that goes along with today's lesson, you are more than welcome to. The questions on there that you can continue to discuss this week with your family are: who do you join with to create a world where people can live freely and without fear? So who do you work with? Who do you work together with to create this world that we're all dreaming of? Who are some of the most joyful people you know? And why do you think they are so truly joyful? The next question is, what does joy in following Jesus look like? So maybe a little critical thinking about some of the stuff we talked about today. And then your last question is, who are people of faith that you look to for encouragement when you feel discouraged or when you are kind of struggling to follow Jesus' example? Who is somebody that you go to kind of as your role model for following Jesus? So those are your questions for this week. And I am going to close us in prayer, and then I invite you to go do those coloring pages or go do the activity that's getting sent out. And I will see you guys next week for our very last installment of our Beatitudes Sermon on the Mount series. Again, I'm sad it's over because I've really loved this series and loved leading it with you guys. But this series being over after next week just means we get to find a new really fun series to start all over again. So I am going to close us in prayer. I hope you guys have fantastic weeks. Be good for your families because they need it. And if you, as always, have questions or just need to talk about anything that we talked about today, or if there's something I just didn't explain quite good enough or well enough for you, please text or email or call me, and I would love to explain any of this with you. Or if you just want to say hi, I would love to say hi. So my phone and inbox are always open. Please never forget that. So I'm going to close us in prayer, and then you guys are free to go and live in peace and love to serve the Lord. So let us pray. Dear God, you are our biggest joy and our biggest hope. Thank you for all our siblings of faith who encourage and keep us strong. Help us encourage others. Plant our feet in your promise to always be our support, no matter what we face. We pray others will see and know you because of our unshakable joy. Amen. So like I said, you guys, I will see you next Sunday for our very last Beatitudes lesson episode. And I hope you all have fantastic weeks. And I miss you. I love you so much. And like I said, reach out absolutely anytime that you could ever need anything in the world. I am here for you. So have a great week. I'll see you next Sunday. Bye, guys.